YouTube? It's Young Men's Daily Red Pill, back with another video. Thank you guys for watching on today's video, liking the content, sharing the content, helping me spread this red pill message. Got a very important topic. It can relate to all of us that are working, that are still working our 9-to-5 jobs, because as you guys know, this is not all I do, obviously. So I still work and I still am going to school. But it has to do with you, those of you that are in the workforce still, because we're still around women. And if you haven't noticed, ever since the beer bug's been around, women have been acting just a little bit different, all right? And I've noticed this too, and the subscriber that sent this in, he's noticed it at his work. In my personal experience, I've noticed girls are much more emotional, all right? They're calling out of work more. They're switching jobs more often, or they're just going on unemployment. I don't know. One day I see them at work, then the next day they're gone, the next week they're gone, and no one's heard from them. And even the managers don't even know what happened to them. So I think they're going through a very emotional time right now, all right? And a lot of guys, we're very strong in the fact that we've always kind of just had to look out for ourselves and be on our own for the most part. So when times get tough, when things like this happen with like the beer bug and, there's a possibility that it might affect our job and our money. Us men, what we do, we put on our boots, we go to work, we continue to just push forward, and we continue to figure out ways to make more money and to overcome difficulty. All right. But women, on the other hand, we know they are led by emotions, and we know that they are going to deal with certain situations in a much more feelings-oriented type of way. All right. So this is nothing to knock on women, but it is a really interesting article I'm going to read, and the title of it is "Here's Why the Beer Bug Virus is Making Women Sadder and Angrier Than Men." All right. And this is a really interesting article. They highlight a ton of different reasons why the beer bug is causing women to be much more frustrated than men. All right, so let's just dive into this article. That's enough of me talking, because they highlight some things, and I want to point out some things as well that I've noticed that the article didn't talk about, but we can talk about on this channel. But honestly, this article it's kind of red pill a little bit. It's a little red pill. So let's dive into this article with no further ado. Let's check it out. All right, so I already read you guys the title, and the first paragraph basically just talks about how there's been an increase from Americans in sleeping disorders, eating disorders, alcohol consumption, all these different things. And a lot of people are just, struggling, dealing with everything that's been going on due to the beer bug. And I'm going to call it beer bug just so I don't get demonetized. So if you guys don't know what that means, then I don't know what planet you're living on. But anyways, this is what the article talks about that's important. Data reveals significant differences in emotional response by gender. Women report similar feelings of frustration and stress as men, but more report increases in feelings of sadness and anger. In fact, nearly 40% of women say they felt angrier, and 37% say they felt sadder since the outbreak of the beer bug, compared to 27% and 28% of men, respectively. So men are able to deal with these things, like I've told you guys countless of times, and we're not as emotional. And honestly, society has trained us to not show our emotions and to not behave in certain ways, and to more so kind of hold it in. I'm not saying that's healthy, but that's just how society's treated us as men. And a lot of men hold in these things, and sometimes, more oftentimes than not, a lot of men just go to the grave with certain things on their mind, or they take their lives because, we as men are supposed to just hold the burden of performance because, we're men. We're supposed to just always have that performance and be the best versions of ourselves in everything, whereas women just have to show up and look beautiful for the most part. While it's certainly possible that men are experiencing or coping with their anger, sadness in indirect ways not captured by this survey, women's increased feelings of anger nonetheless merit closer consideration. Unlike their elevated feelings of sadness, increased feelings of anger among women runs contrary to much of the research on gender and mental health. Women tend to turn emotions inward and report more anxious and depressive symptoms like sadness, while it's men who typically tend to turn to things outward and express more anger. Or the men just aren't talking about it because, we've been trained not to. Sociologists refer to the differences in emotional responses as the internalizing, externalizing divide, and largely attribute it to the differences in how men and women are socialized. This is not to say, of course, that men don't get depressed or anxious or that women never respond in anger. Rather, just that the gender typical response means men are more likely to express anger than women. So what about the beer bug might explain why women are reporting higher rates of both predictable emotional reaction and one that is somewhat out of line with gender typical expectations. So they outline some of the problems and they say women of color reported higher rates of unemployment and are leaving the job market at alarming rates. Part of this is due to the collapsing female dominated industries like hospitality and sectors of the healthcare industry. So yeah, females are going to be most affected when places like restaurants or, you know, your RNs or things like that, when they don't have jobs and they can't work. This really stuck out to me. Some economists argue that it will take a decade for women to make up the gains in the labor force they've lost in the pandemic. Not if they join OnlyFans. Oh man. But the pressure of gender roles in regard to the household duties may also be a factor in women's increased anger, especially for women in particular in partnerships with men, which is why we've seen divorce rates and marriages just plummet since all of this. For women with young children, the persistent gender wage gap and new caretaking responsibilities. Yeah, you have to be a mom sometimes, you know? You can't just drop them off at the nannies and have other people in the government raise your children. Oh, yeah, demonetized, right? Like helping kids with online school or caring for a sick family member are an overload. That's what women used to do back in the day. That's what women used to do. You know, they used to take care of their kids. They would cook, clean, stay at home. But, you know, we've trained this generation of women to not want to be feminine, and they think that that's slavery. They think that's slavery. And they want to work and they want to outperform and they want to talk down on you, man, you male, because she has more degrees than you and she's working a white collar job at a desk that's cushy while you're working a blue collar job using your body, and she's not going to respect that because you're not working behind a computer or at a desk. That's just the honest truth now with women. Despite the significant changes in society in regard to the distribution of household labor, women still report doing more cooking, grocery shopping, and general domestic work than men. Women are also more likely to take on the role of the caregiver to both children and other adults. Well, that's on them, you know. That's just how women are wired, but, you know, that's not our fault. So they choose that. Results from the Groucher poll also finds that women from higher income households feel less sadness and anger than those from lower income households. These are women who can presumably afford luxuries like childcare or who simply haven't personally felt the strain of the economic impact. You guys wanted a reset, and this might be the reset that we've been waiting on. I'm not saying it's gonna happen in the next year or so. I'm saying the great reset where us men become the patriarchs again and we're leading society and we're back at the top running our harems. This is the moment we've been waiting for, right? I think this is just a little bit of what we can expect to see, okay? And they even talk about it here in this article. Adult women today have grown up with the idea that they can achieve the same career success and family life that society has afforded men. These notions were consistently challenged before the outbreak by standing inequities in household labor and the realities of the labor market. But the beer bug has exposed the fragile nature of women's advancement in the workplace and domestic life. It's of little wonder that many women are feeling sad and angry about it. Unbelievable, right guys? All right, so I'm gonna link this article in the description, and I think that the Great Reset is not too far away, all right? It's not too far away, guys. And I think masculinity, I think it's gonna get a little worse. It's gonna get a little worse. But what can we expect in the future is if you're working on yourself right now, if you're grinding hard, if you're building your kingdom, you, my friend, along with other people watching this channel that's focused on themselves, on their purpose, you will be at the top one day, and you will be in control in all aspects of your life. And these women that look down on you now, these women that make fun of you for working a blue-collar job and having a hard skill, they're going to be knocking at your door, begging for you. When everything, I'm talking about the collapse happens, whatever goes on with the election happens, there's going to be some type of reset. All right, and other content creators have talked about this as well. When that happens, remember how you were treated. Remember when women had most of the power and most of the authority over men. And use that information and how that felt to your advantage, and don't let them come back in, all right? They gotta pay a price. They have to pay a price to come back in. But I've noticed this at work as well. Women are starting to lose their minds because of everything that's going on. They're getting more angry, more frustrated, and they're calling out more, they're quitting. They're just switching jobs, they're flip-flopping through all these different jobs. And I've noticed girls just really can't make up their mind during these difficult times. So there was this girl at my work, she came from Denver, I live in California, so she started working like a few weeks ago, and she was working for us pretty well. And what happened was she decided that she was going to just go to Florida, just got a wild hair, I guess, and decided to travel to Florida. And she quit, put in her 2 weeks or whatever, left, went to Florida. And I guess her housing situation or job situation didn't work out very well over there. So she tries to come back, and I see her getting an interview again. And you know, the managers aren't gonna let her come back, you know? They're not gonna let her just leave like that and play flip-flop through jobs because she thinks that she knows what she's doing when clearly she doesn't know what she's doing. She doesn't know what she wants out of life, and she's just scattered. You know, this is why women need men to lead them, because without men, they're just running around with their heads cut off. There's no direction. So I thought this was an interesting article to share with you guys. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you think will happen. Will there be a great reset? Will women ever get in line again? Or I feel like it has to get worse before it gets any better, and it has to get a lot worse. But, you know, there's some hope in this. And the fact that, you know, it's not, I'm not saying I'm happy that women are going through anger and depression, but it just shows you that, you know, men are meant to lead and men are meant to be in charge, or things can get out of hand like this, because we already have the burden of performance since we were young, you know, and women just haven't had that yet. So we see how they're starting to crumble slowly during times of difficulty like this. It's nothing on women, it's just how they've been wired. And so the feminists are going to get mad and dislike this video. But, you know, this is just facts, and this is just the truth about everything, that, you know, men handle these type of situations better because we're not going to be all emotional about it. We're going to think through the situation logically, and we're going to figure out a way to come out on top, to maintain our mental health, to figure out ways to make more money, passive streams of income, all these different things that men have created and invented throughout the years. You know, this everything that's going on right now, this is nothing compared to what other previous generations of people have gone through. And this is quite frankly why I feel like men are handling the situation better, because, you know, we realize that, you know, we can put up with this. We're living in the first world. Like, this is not a big deal in the long run. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna keep building things and creating things, because that's what we do. We're gonna put our brain to the task and just work through this. We're not gonna get emotional about it. And, you know, another reason I think women might be angry is because they're more communicative creatures. They love to communicate. They speak about 200 more words per day than men, or something like that. So, you know, they're not going to be out and about and communicating as much as they used to before all of this happened. So that might be another reason why they've been dealing with anger and depression. You know, let me know your thoughts, though. I thought I'd share this with you guys. And yeah, until next time, have a good one. I'm out.